All right, welcome back to the channel. So in this video, we're going to talk about Errol Spence Jr., Manny Pacquiao, and Keith Thurman, and specifically something that Freddie Roach had to say, and that is that Keith Thurman was more dangerous to Manny Pacquiao than Errol Spence Jr. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. Now, before I get into this, into the subject matter of the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the videos, share the videos. It really does go a very, very long way towards growing the channel, and it is much, much appreciated. So, Manny Pacquiao and Errol Spence Jr. are going to be having a fight coming up in August, in late August, and I think that it is an absolutely terrific fight. And it's one that is not quite an even money fight, but one where I'm not 100% sure of of who's going to win the fight. I'm leaning towards Errol Spence Jr., pretty heavily. However, I know full well that Manny Pacquiao is a special fighter, and that every once in a while there are fights that turn out differently than you think that they're going to turn out, right? Even if somebody is holds big advantages. One of the big examples of that, when I was a very, very young kid, was the Muhammad Ali versus George Foreman fight, where pretty much everybody had George Foreman knocking out Muhammad Ali in the first round or something, and then that fight was over in Kinshasa, Zaire. And I remember my father telling me he woke up with looking in the newspaper to see what happened, and he found out that Muhammad Ali won by knockout, and what a ridiculous, what a crazy shock that was, right? So I don't think that this fight is nearly as big a gap as people would have said that Foreman Ali fight is. So so if it can happen in that scenario where one guy is knocking out everybody, knocked out the people that the other guy fought, right, is looking like this absolute killer, Excuse me, I had to sneeze. Here we're just talking about one fighter that is a little bit older, like 42 years old, and another guy that is right in his prime at 31 years old. So I can understand how some people may think that Manny Pacquiao can win the fight, and I think that he's a live underdog. You have Errol Spence Jr., who very well may be suffering the lingering effects of the car accident that he has. He also is somebody that is a bigger guy and is looking like, he doesn't want to stay at the weight class much longer. So Manny Pacquiao's in that weight class, which is his, where he doesn't have to really drain down and is in a kind of a comfort zone where Errol Spence has to come down and maintain a weight that's kind of low until the day of the weigh-in. Then he's probably going to put on some weight afterwards, where Manny Pacquiao is much more comfortable. So all of those type of things, can combine, and you have an opportunity for there to be an upset in the fight, or one where the older guy beats the younger guy. Now, however, that being said, Freddie Roach took an angle on this that I completely didn't expect, and I had to think about, because he says that Keith Thurman is a bigger threat to Manny Pacquiao than Errol Spence Jr. is, and I had to think to myself, like, why would you say that? That's clearly, that on its face, let me put it that way, that on its face, that doesn't make any sense that Keith Thurman would be a bigger threat than Errol Spence Jr. is, because Errol Spence Jr. is fighting at a much higher level than Keith Thurman was, especially when you fought Keith Thurman had one fight back, but before that had an extended layoff with injuries and with surgeries and such. But so I thought about it. I was like, what could he possibly mean by that? And maybe he's meaning that stylistically, and the fact that Keith Thurman holds a really big punch, they could cause more risk for Manny Pacquiao, because if Manny Pacquiao gets caught with a shot against Keith Thurman has the ability to put you down or put you out with one shot. He used to be called Keith One Time Thurman because all he had to do is land on you one time, and that makes him a very dangerous puncher. Now, I think based on looking at their fights, if you had to say who was the more dangerous one-punch puncher, then I would say, okay, that would probably be Keith Thurman because Keith Thurman, like I said, has the ability to concuss you. However, I wouldn't say that he is as far as being a fighter, more of a danger to lose to because Keith Thurman gives away whole halves of fights. If you remember when he fought Sean Porter and when he fought Danny Garcia, he pretty much gave away this entire second half of the fight. Against Manny Pacquiao, he gave away the first half of the fight. Now, Keith Thurman, I thought, came on better in the second half of the fight than he did the first half, but I don't think that equates to as much unless you're talking about danger as far as just getting concussed. But if you look at the way that Errol Spence Jr. fights, Errol Spence Jr. is the bigger threat to beat him because Errol Spence Jr. has a lot in common with Juan Manuel Marquez, who is definitely was the nemesis of Manny Pacquiao during the times that they were fighting. Even during those 2 times that Manny Pacquiao got decisions, many people, including myself, thought that Manny Pacquiao got beat. I think that Manny Pacquiao got beat 3 times by Juan Manuel Marquez. And the first one was a draw after, in the first round, Manny Pacquiao knocked down Marquez 3 times. That tells you how much he had to he dominated the rest of that fight after those knockdowns. That is just kryptonite. Juan Manuel Marquez was kryptonite for Manny Pacquiao. And I think a lot of the things that Juan Manuel Marquez brings to the table, so does Errol Spence, like being somebody that is going to pressure you for the entire time, the entire length of the fight. With Keith Thurman, you're going to get times when Keith Thurman is moving around. He's trying to set something up. He's not really on top of you. Where Errol Spence Jr. is going to be on top of you from the first time the bell rings until that fight is over. Errol Spence Jr. is going to be in your space, looking to hit you, and if you're punching, there's something coming back at you. That is what Juan Manuel Marquez did to Manny Pacquiao. He kept on countering Manny Pacquiao, kept winning exchanges with Manny Pacquiao, and he made it very difficult for Manny Pacquiao to just kind of be on the outside and leaping in and biding his time and setting his shot. Because Manny Pacquiao does a lot of that too, fighting in spurts. And then being way on the outside, leaping on the inside. But if Errol Spence Jr. is keeping that space close to Manny Pacquiao and cutting off the ring and keeping Manny Pacquiao in a fight, especially from the southpaw stance, that I think is much more dangerous to Manny Pacquiao than Keith Thurman's one punch shot. But anyway, that's how I take it. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.